Yeah, the problem doesn't get easier, you get stronger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and the problems will always get harder. Like
Yeah.
never get easier.
There's always the next problem to deal with too.
Seriously, seriously.
Yeah. I kind of like to stay in the mindset too of like, all right, what do I think my limit is of like what I can actually do? And then like
Mhm.
let's take on a responsibility that's like a little bit above that. Where it's like I'm gonna have to push my limits here because I'm like don't actually have the skill set to run financial calculations for my internship yet, but like we're gonna see. I'm gonna have to learn it on the spot. This is Building the Blueprint, and it's all about education and entertainment. Self-help content is great, but it gets really, really boring. And every single week, I have an important and successful guest. And not only do we shoot the shit, but we have insightful conversations. So you both laugh and learn at the same time. I hope you stick around, because this is Building the Blueprint. What is what's the most amount of alarms a functioning human should have? Like how many times am I allowed to hit snooze before like there's a problem?
I'm sadistic, dude. I am a zero snoozer.
Really?
I try. I have no snoozes on my alarms. Well, okay, this is weird.
Is that a military
So
thing?
I think it partly is. And this it's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about this morning. So whenever I have an alarm set, no matter like what time it's set for, my brain like subconsciously always wakes up before it.
Really?
Yeah, but like not always in the best pattern, right? Like sometimes I'll have like an alarm set just in case for like 5:30 or something, right? Because I have a busy day, and then my brain's like, oh, I have to make sure I'm up by that time, and so then my brain will wake up at like 3:30, and then I'm just like, okay, like that's too early, like
That's insane.
at a certain point you're waking up so early that it's like, wow, I'm just actually still very exhausted. This is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Um, and so I usually try to not have alarms, just because then I don't have to go with that problem. But
You go no
that
alarm. Oh, like no
yeah,
snoozes. You or wait, no alarm or no
no
snooze?
no no alarm. I just wake up.
You just
Um,
like you're like I'm gonna wake up at 5:30 today, and you just
Pretty
do it.
much, yeah. My brain really adapts to.
What if you wanted to wake
Uh,
up at 10?
I can't. I like it wakes up. My like latest wake up time. My girl gets mad at me all the time for this. My latest wake up time is probably like 7.
That's
Like
insane.
absolute latest.
What time do you go to bed?
It depends. Like sometimes I go to bed like 9, sometimes like 10:30, some 11 midnight. Um,
Okay, so early-ish.
Early-ish, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Not like super duper early, but yeah, I
you're
just
off the
like
college schedule.
yeah. There you go. Like you're just used to having like absolutely no sleep. And but yeah, so but all that to answer your question of in terms of like what's like I think a normal amount of snoozes. Most people that I know, I think they go by the rule of two,
Yeah,
right? Like they
yeah,
have these two alarms that they're like the first one is like to get the brain sort of going, and then the
yeah.
second one is like okay, it's almost time, and then the third one is like okay, that was actually time to
You're
get up.
up.
So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So like I think that's the rule of thumb, the heuristic there, but just my really weird anecdote is that so I don't use alarms. I try not to because then it's just like I wake up way too early and then it
that's
throws everything
insane.
off.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the one alarm club. I'm or like one snooze. Like I wake up, hit snooze, chuck my phone across the room, and then I once it goes off again, I have to get up and go get it because I can't like if it's too close, I'll turn it off. I'll be like
Yeah.
5 more minutes, 5 more minutes.
Do you sleep with your phone next to you or do you sleep with,
It's like
like
on the ground.
across on the ground? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it's like on the ground. Then I'll lean over, pick it up, and I just fucking chuck. My phone has so many cracks. I just because I'm pissed too, and I
Yeah.
just huck it across the room. It's bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I'm the same way. My phone has a bunch of cracks on it. It's a problem. I always like so I have those like plastic screens that are supposed to protect it. It doesn't, and then
Yeah.
it just like, it keeps cracking. And then I replace them, and I'm like, okay, cool. This one it's gonna last. I'm gonna make sure I do well with it. And then a week later, it's like a crack's there again. Then it's just right back to normal. It's sort of how they get me. So I totally empathize with the super cracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Christian, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you. For anybody listening, Christian is an absolute beast, and I'm going to say it right now, the most qualified guest I've had on the show up to this point. You were a Marine. You studied here at the University of Oregon with me. You are currently an investment banker looking to get into private equity. I mean, you talk about hard work. Like you are the definition of someone I think of hard work, and I'm so excited to catch up with you, man.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. For everyone out there, I'm normal. Like I just,
You
just a
just said
guy
you
who's
you
trying
just you just said you don't set alarms. You are not normal.
to, except for the alarm portion of my life, I'm pretty normal in like all other facets, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
thank you, though. I appreciate the words.
Yeah, so I want to start off talking about Marines because I always knew you were in the Marines, but
Yeah.
we never actually talked about it. And I'm really curious to hear how you got into that.
Yeah. That's a great question. So it really goes back to 2016, 2017 when I was getting ready to graduate. Um, as I was thinking about like what were my options next in life, I sort of came across like a bit of a stone wall, right? Like in high school, I wasn't the best student. I showed up to class and I did my work, but I never really tried too much because I was really focused on wrestling. That was like the thing that I lived and breathed during high school, and I was never that good of a wrestler to like end up going to college for it. And so then when I was getting ready to graduate, I sort of faced, a bit of this tough decision to make where it's like, okay, I can't really afford college, right? My family were like low income. So like we didn't necessarily have the means to afford going to or like paying for college myself. And my grades weren't like stellar. So I wasn't going to get like a full ride anywhere. But I knew I wanted to go to college. And so then I was like, okay, like there's really only two options. Like option one is I like heavily in debt myself, or option two is I do the military. Um, and as a 17-year-old graduating high school, the military sounded like a lot more of a enticing option. And especially, coming fresh off of, doing wrestling for my entire time during school, the bravado and the badassness at the time that the Marines had to it definitely won me over. There's this old school commercial that it would replay
Yeah,
every
yeah,
once in a
yeah.
while.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know what you're
dude.
talking
Yeah,
about.
like the Marines in the dress
The few
blue
and
with
the
the
proud.
fucking yeah, the few and the proud. There's also like a dress blue one where like he's running around with a sword, like fighting a dragon. And
Uh-huh.
I was just like an impressionable young man, and I was like, I need to go fight dragons, you
Yeah.
know. And little did I know I'd never see a dragon
It's
in
amazing how that works.
my life. But yeah, it's literally propaganda when you think about it. But
Yeah.
in the moment, I was like, nah, no way someone can influence my mind that way. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was my way to get out and to eventually go to college, right? And so like when sort of faced with that decision, I was like, well, I was weighing out the risk and the reward, and I was like, cool, like I think it's worth it. It's definitely very risky, but let me go to it. And I think the Marines is just the best way to do it, just because it really has that. It's got that aura, right? I hate using that word, but it's got aura.
Yeah. It does. It
Jesus.
does. It
Uh,
you using young person slang now.
yeah, I know, man. I know. I'm one of y'all,
One of y'all sneak in.
huh? Jesus.
You know, um, you know how like NFL players talk about their like welcome to the NFL moment, where
Yeah.
like somebody just busts their ass. Like, do you have like a welcome to the Marines moment that comes to
Yeah,
mind?
dude, it's really funny you mentioned that. So, um, after I finished boot, so like there's three stages to Marine training, right? So the first part is the recruit training, the boot camp. So they shave your head and do all that stuff that you see on like the YouTube channels. The second part is Marine combat training. Since I wasn't an infantry person, so essentially you just go there and they teach you like rudimentary tactics and like how to be a rifleman essentially. And then the third is like your actual like job school, right? So what you're gonna do. And so my like welcome to the Marine moment, it was after boot camp. Surprisingly, like boot camp wasn't that bad. But then it was when I showed up to the combat training because on my way to fly back into Camp Pendleton in SoCal, which is where the training is at, I lost my wallet, right? So I lost my wallet, and I'm like, fuck, like I have my ID inside of my wallet. Like I need that in order to check in. And so I was like, it's fine. Like people lose their wallets all the time. Like nothing's bad's gonna happen, right? So we get into like the reception area for this combat training. And as we get in there, I'm like, okay, like I mentioned before, like it'll be fine. No one's gonna make a big fuss out of it. Like I'm not in boot camp anymore. Like this is, I'm already a Marine at this point. So we get there, and I go tell the person that's like helping us on board. I'm like, hey, I lost my wallet. I have my ID. And so he's like, oh shit. And then he points me to the side, goes to this other room, and he's like, well, go talk to that sergeant over there and tell him that you don't have your wallet, your ID. And so I go tell him, right? And then I turn around, I go find this sergeant, dude. This is like a 6'2", like 220, 230 pound, like just massive man, right? I'm like, oh God, I'm like, this is not going to go well for me. Like
Yeah.
the initial notion I had of, it's just going to blow off. Like, I don't think that's going to hold true. And so then, he's turned facing away from me. I remember vividly. I remember tapping him. I'm like, hey, Sergeant, I was told to come over here and tell you that I lost my ID. And like he had like just a normal deadpan face and like just instantly like rage came to his mind, right? And he like grabs me by my collar and like pins me up against the wall. He's like, what kind of a dumbass are you? You lose your ID in the first goddamn week. And what like he's just like yelling and berating into me. And I'm just like standing there. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I thought this was over. Like I signed up for 4 years of this. Like I'm like, there's no escape. That was my welcome to the Marines moment, and that was like a real like wake up call because I'm like, I signed a contract, man. Like
Like,
we
damn.
have this saying in the Marine Corps, USMC, you signed the motherfucking contract, right? And there's no getting out of it at that point. So that was my welcome to the military moment.
That's so good. It's like when you're like a pledge and you get in the fraternity and then everyone starts calling you a nib, like a newly initiated brother. You're like, I
Yeah.
thought I was done with this shit.
Yeah, no, you're never done with it. And there's always, and that's a lesson I found that's I think ubiquitous in life, man. Is there's always someone that's just gonna shit on you. There's
Yeah.
always someone that's just always gonna like look down and like just throw crap at you. It's a lesson I learned early on in life, which I think is awesome because then like as I go throughout life, I still get crapped on all the time, right? And as it happens, and it's like, okay, like that's just a part of life. Like you just roll with it. Like it's gonna happen. You just got to go with the punches at that point.
Yeah. How do you think you grew the most being in the Marines? Like it's a got to be a transformational experience in a lot of ways. I'm curious like how you developed from like a 17-year-old boy into like, a 22-year-old man, right? Like that's got to be a lot of change, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, 100%. I think there's changes on like all aspects of like who you are as a person, right? Like, you walk away from the military, if I really want to think about like what's the highest hitting lesson, I think the most important thing that I took away from that was confidence, right? Like, a lot of the times, and before I went into the military, and I'm sure a lot of people think this way too, you hear about these things that happen in the news. You hear about all these events where people are out there and, they're getting stuff done, whether it's, military or it's in the business world or media, entertainment, whatever. Excuse me. And as a regular person, like from a layman's perspective, it seems so unattainable. You're like, these people are all superheroes, right? It's like, how do people have the fortitude, have the skills in order to accomplish so many, fantastic things. And throughout my entire time in the military, and after a deployment, after multiple like training exercises, and everything that was that entire 4 year span, I really walked away with that confidence of like being able to do significant and important things. Right. The deployment that I was on when I was in the military was during COVID-19. So essentially, what had happened is as soon as the COVID sort of pandemic started, I think it was March or April. There was an aircraft carrier that had gotten struck, and everyone on the ship had gotten infected with COVID. And so the captain at the time was like, "Screw this! Like we have to dock in Guam, and we have to go, get care for these people." Because there was 2,000 something sailors on there and Marines that were all infected. And his name was Captain Crozier. Pretty significant moment. And as I was watching all of this stuff unfold real time, like we had gotten the call from the general that our unit was getting tasked to deploy to provide security because it's like this is an aircraft carrier that's a massive security asset, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like we've done all this like training and like talking about things, but then in the moment, it's like, oh, like I actually have to go do something now. And at that point in time, my job was logistics manager, right? And so, like, as a logistics manager, my job is making sure that everything gets from point A to point B and has absolutely no issues, right? And so, like, all of a sudden, I remember this vividly still too. It was a Friday night, like we were just sort of hanging out, and then all of a sudden, I got a call from my captain. told me to come into the office. We come into the office and he's like, hey, by Sunday, we have to get the hell out of here. We have to move everyone. We have to mobilize the entire battalion, get out there with all the equipment necessary. And I realized I'm like, oh, there's no one else. I'm the one in charge. Like I'm the one that has to actually plan this and make it happen, right? So that was essentially 48 hours of just, I literally worked 40 hours straight.
Yeah.
It was terrible, right? But then like that's just, and then like after everything had transpired there, once we got to Guam, our mission and my task was to help set up this emergency field hospital system in conjunction with like the naval forces that were there in order to make sure that people got the care, both in like the military side and like the Chamorro people of Guam. And as we were, I was working with which it was a doctor and a dentist at the time. Like it was like the randomest like pair of people, and we're like they're like figuring out, and I'm adding to these conversations, and I'm like I'm the logistic expert, and I'm like wow, like all of a sudden like this super high profile mission that's going down, like I'm the person they're looking to into like figure this stuff out, which is it's life or death, right?
You're what, 20 years old at the time?
20 years old at a time, dude.
That's
At
insane.
20 years, and it was an insane pressure. But like and this just goes for me. And I know people react to pressure very differently, but like once the pressure is on, I just don't feel anything. It's just like go mode. Like my mind instantly. I very much so like working under pressure because my mind it feels like a sort of like a flow yoga state, which is
Yeah.
it sounds very weird to say until afterwards. And afterwards, like the stress kicks in and everything. But like when you're in the moment, everything goes awesome. But all that to say is like that's just one specific example out of so many that throughout my military where it's like at that moment in time, like it was my job to do something very real, and there was no one else to turn to, right? Like at the end of the day, I had to be the one that made the decision and like completely executed on it and assume all the responsibility that goes along with that, right? And so like as I walk away from the service and like reflect back now, that's my biggest thing that I've taken away from it. It's like it's literally the confidence of saying, I know that I'm able to, be put in this tough spot. But when it comes down to it, I'll make the decision and hopefully it'll be right. It's not always right, right? Like I've made errors. I've made a lot of errors before, and it sucks when they happen, but it's just a part of the process, right? Like no one is ever going to be 100% correct, but that's what I still walk away with at the end of the day is knowing I have the confidence that when the time comes, I'll step up and make the decision that has to happen.
Yeah. It's the military seems like such a great accelerator for developing skills like that. Like, what do you think, for people that are a normal 20-year-old who's maybe in
Yeah.
college right now, it's like, how does that person develop that, do you think? Because I feel like that's a big lack of skill I see out in the world. Is like, people aren't that confident or people are nervous. Like, if shit hits the fan, like, I don't know if I can do this, right? And you got to have
Yeah.
that awesome, unique, crazy experience at 20 of like, you didn't really have a choice. Like, hey, I'm in this pressure situation. This is happening whether or not I want it to happen, right?
Yeah.
But I think when we're kind of in normal civilian world, you kind of have to seek that out, and that's not a natural thing to do. Like, do you think that's the case? Like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
think.
No, 100%. Like obviously like you can't replicate it one for one, right? Like there's just a certain level of like the stress and the learning curve that the military gives that you aren't able to replicate in like a regular, at least not for like a regular college student, right? Like maybe if you're working like LEO or firefighter, then you could, right? Like and that's a potential case too, right? It's like I know in the Northwest, like a lot of the firefighters, especially in the summer, are super bad, right? And they need people to help, right? And it's like it's the young people, it's a college age student that does it, right? Like my buddy Hayden Munson, he's an Oregon grad. He lives here in Austin now too. For a year, he was just a firefighter out there in the wildlands, right? Um, we had one of the old Beta brothers, Ryan.
Yeah.
He literally was a firefighter for a while too.
Jockers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he was out there for a while too, and so it's like, I mean, that's definitely like that's like a one for one, I think, replication if you want to put yourself in a situation like that. There's obviously like a ton of learning. It's obviously dangerous, but you do walk away with that like, okay, like this shit is actually hitting the fan, like the forest on fire. I have to put it out, right? But like in a normal college situation, let's say a lot of people aren't going to want to put themselves there. I think the best way to try to replicate that, a decent proxy is just like just getting involved with like extracurriculars on the campus. I mean, like it's not going to be the same level, but like to you, it will seem that way, right?
Yeah.
Because like the perspective, I think, changes obviously, right? Because you don't have the experiences that let's say I've had, but like in that moment in time for you, like the problem you're dealing with, let's say if you're president of insert club here and you're trying to like secure funding for the next year, that problem's going to seem pretty imminent to you, right? It's going to seem pretty grave. And so like the way you go about handling that, like that is something that can carry over into different situations, right? And so like it's obviously not going to be to the same extent, but I believe it's like a good proxy, right? It's like getting involved with these kind of extracurriculars that'll put you in like a spot where there's going to be some stress, right? Because like stress is good for you. Stress is like what the human body needs in order to survive, right? Like there is a healthy amount of stress that's necessary to survive. And then like personal opinion here, like this is not science backed, but it's like you need more in order to grow. Because then like as you get more and more stressed out to a certain extent, like your body continues to push itself so much more so that eventually you can handle so much more. It's like working out a muscle at the gym. If you're getting in those reps in a healthy and controlled manner, you're going to be able to lift more and more and more. And the same goes with like emotional strength.
Yeah. The problem doesn't get easier, you get stronger.
Yeah,
You know?
100%. Yeah, and the problems will always get harder. Like
Yeah.
never get easier.
There's always the next problem to deal with too.
Seriously, seriously.
Yeah. I kind of like to stay in the mindset too of like, all right, what do I think my limit is of like what I can actually do? And then like
Mhm.
let's take on a responsibility that's like a little bit above that. Where it's like I'm gonna have to push my limits here because I'm like don't actually have the skill set to run financial calculations for my internship yet, but like we're gonna see. I'm gonna have to learn it on the spot, right?
Exactly,
And
exactly.
and yeah, pushing yourself in those ways is really important. Um, what's your most irrational fear?
My
Because
most irrational
I can tell you right now,
bees, dude.
bees. Really?
Bees.
Are
I
you
am
allergic
like
to bees?
I don't know. I've never been stung.
we're gonna
Like
find out.
it like and this is a bit of a tangent. But like the fact that I was a Marine in the past, like I can never be scared of things, right? People are always
Yeah,
like, "Oh, you're a Marine. Like, there's no way you're scared of a bee." It's like, yes, dude, I am terrified of bees. Like,
yeah,
I'm not scared of snakes. I'm not scared of spiders. Like, no animals really scare me except bees because there's that uncertainty, right? It's like, what if
what
I am
if?
allergic?
Uh,
And then all of a sudden I'm become like super bubble man, and like I can't. So that is
that's
my
hilarious.
very irrational fear. Like I will freak out when a bee is around me. I try to contain it in me when I got to keep cool, but
Yeah,
it's tough. What's
yeah.
yours?
Mine is like, all right, mine is like really niche, but it's like that I'm gonna say someone's name wrong, like that I don't know someone's name. Like it's like
Yeah.
I know your full name is like Christian Tinoco Lopez, but like
Mhm.
in person, I'm always like, oh hey man, because I'm like nervous that like for whatever reason I switch the names up. Like I get so scared to like say someone's name in case it's wrong.
Yeah. That's where you always like have to resort to like the hey dude or like
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
and you just like that's usually my go-to. I'm tough. I struggle with names sometimes, and then like especially if it's like a big event, and so then I'll just be like hey,
yeah.
and just try to intentionally get in their eye contact, because it's like I don't know your name, like you probably know that I don't know it. Let's just
My
get there.
my mom was here last weekend or a couple weekends ago for Mom's Weekend, and it
Uh-huh.
was the best because I'd go, "Oh, hey, this is my mom," and they would go like, "Oh, hey, I'm Chris," and I'm like, "Oh, nope, write that down, write that down." Like, Mom, this is Chris. Of
Yeah.
course, obviously, right, right, right.
There you go, man. That's crafty. I like that. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. Yeah.
When did um, when did you realize you were a beast? Like you were just like an animal when it comes to like doing things and like not slacking off and like progressing as a human. Like
Dude.
when did that happen?
Um.
And I know you're too humble to admit it, but like you are.
Yeah. I mean, it has it. And I'll say this. There is one thing I'll talk about, but like to answer that question, like I have like there's always just this like thought looming in the back of my head that it's like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. Like it's not good enough. I've learned to cope with that like over time and like talk to myself as a person. It's like that I know that's very unhealthy to have, right? Like I've been told by especially like my girlfriend Amanda has been amazing with that. Like to sort of help me in saying like, hey, you are doing great, right? You're accomplishing so many things. Like, take it easy on yourself. But in my head, it's never enough, right? But
Yeah.
like, and I don't think it ever will feel like that. But that's okay with me, right? Like, it's just slowly realizing that like that's sort of the way my mind is shaped and like geared towards. Um, but I've never realized that I'm a beast. What I have realized is I can learn, right?
Hmm.
That's the one thing that I realized, and it's funny you mentioned that. I was thinking about this the other day, and it happened. It happened in the military. It was a military moment where I really realized that I'm good at learning things, right?
Hmm.
Like, as part of the military, like you obviously you get thrown a whole bunch of different like knowledge, random bits of knowledge in order to like learn, right? Like, you have to become sort of this well-rounded person to survive and to thrive and all that kind of stuff. And so I never really considered myself someone who was like that decent at learning, until like in the military. Like, whenever all of these different things were taught to me, I always picked up on things right away. And whenever the situation came up that I had to apply that knowledge, I knew how to do it, right? Like, and that to me, it goes back to that confidence piece. As I carry that out now to college, and now to banking, like there's that confidence, and that there's that like beastness, I guess, of like just being able to learn, right? And I would just equate that to that sort of growth mindset, in which like you can learn anything in the entire world, right? Like, I think like if you look around at any of the quote unquote beasts that are exist in the world, right? All of them just learn, right? It's just like a massive amalgamation of knowledge, right? And not even in just one discipline. It's you see these polymaths, these people that just accomplish and are knowledgeable in so many different fields. And so like that's one thing I did realize that I have the ability to do, is like just learn a lot. Uh, and as I keep learning more and more, I keep finding out that there's a lot I don't know, and then it makes me more curious, and then I start learning more, and it's this like repetitive cycle, that my brain really it's got an itch for it, and it hasn't stopped. It's been this way since, and I vividly remember like in 2017. Yeah, 2017 is like my brain has sort of been on this like endless feedback loop.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's great though, and so like I guess like that's somewhat of a beast thing that I recognize to myself, but in
Yeah.
other words, I don't think so.
Do you move fast? Because that's something I do, and I'm curious for you. Like, I like to think I do a lot, right? And
Yeah,
have some beast in me, and like I move really fast. I think that's one of the things that helps me do it. Is like, sometimes it catches up to you when I jump into things without thinking about it too much.
yeah,
But I'll look at something, I'll make my quick gut analyze it really fast, and if I see it as a positive or something I should be doing, like I do it. And
yeah,
then I kind of reflect later on and be like, okay, here's what needs to change, right? Like this podcast, like one night I was like, I need to start a podcast for X, Y, and Z reasons. And then I had a full podcast, like, this like junk setup, but I made it work like within like 4 days,
yeah.
right? Do you move like that?
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah, I mean, full stop. It's just like if I see an opportunity there and it's like worthwhile, like just that quick, like you said, right? Analyze it, right? It's like, to me, I'm always weighing out the risk and the reward, right? It's
Yeah.
like when I think about that, make a gut spot check, then go with it, right? I've been wrong. I have
Yeah,
been wrong. I
definitely.
have been wrong where I'm like, oh, I should not have done this. Like, that's way more than I can chew. And now I have to either figure it out or I have to take an L, right?
Yeah.
And I have to just take a loss, which I hate taking losses, man. I'm a competitive person. I know you are too. Probably many people that listen to this are very competitive people. So I hate being wrong about it, but I am. And so then it's like, I've tried to incorporate a bit of more of a methodical approach, right? And especially now, as I think about, um, my professional career, right? Like, especially as I want to pivot towards this private equity investing, I can't just think like that, right? I can't just think on like immediate gut check. Like,
It's more
there has to
that's more an
be,
entrepreneur thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's much more an entrepreneur thing, and like, because if I eventually want to be in the seat where I'm, people are trusting me with their money to invest it, I want to approach things in a systematic and like, very thorough and disciplined approach, instead of being so much like off the hip, right?
Yeah.
Because then like if you give me $1 million, you're not gonna want me to make decisions off the hip. You're gonna be like, you sure about that? Like, is that
Yeah.
exactly what you want to do? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Be like Warren Buffett, swing once a decade, right? Yeah, that's the trade-off there of like I definitely see this in my life where I'm really excited about things all the time and I'm always like have energy and like I want to talk about things and I'm moving. And then there's the element of like I talk a little too much and it's like when I say something it doesn't hold as much weight, right? Because it's like I'm not sitting in the corner waiting for my one moment to speak. It's like
yeah.
Nick's been
Drop the
like
one liner, and you're like,
yeah,
bam.
it's like Nick's been holding court all dinner. It's like Nick, whatever. I don't know what he just said. I tuned him out at some point.
Dude, man, you're preaching to the choir, man. I'm a yapper, so I fully get it because I see that, like if you just imagine, you just close your eyes and envision, Nick says the one liner, everyone stands up, starts clapping, and
Yeah,
everyone's like, "Oh, he did it!" And then it's like, "No, we just talk." That's
yeah.
cool. That's
I
fun.
can't help it.
Yeah,
Yeah. What's like? What do you think? Do you think there's a difference between working hard and just being busy? Because that's a big thing for me. Of like, I think some people are just busy to be busy, and I don't think like to get a lot done you have to be busy. Like I'm pretty good at prioritizing things and like working smarter.
yeah,
Uh, but there's also a balance, right? Of like being busy versus working hard. Like, do you think there's a difference there?
yeah, dude, 100%. Like, uh, exactly like you said, right? Like, I think as a person, when you think about things in your life outside of like a relationship aspect or like a personal aspect, like if I'm focusing about like work or like development kind of things, as I'm doing things, I'm always trying to think about like what's a better way to do this,
Yeah.
right? Like what's a better way to do this so I can have some marginal improvements that are just seconds shaved off. But then when I, accumulate that over, 15 different experiences, if I'm saving, 3 seconds, right, on each experience, right, that's 45 seconds I've saved up, right? And it's like that 45 seconds I could add to something else, right? It's like that's what I consider as someone that's like working hard, right? Because like there are things that are they're difficult to do in life, and especially from like a work aspect where it's like it's very intensive, it's very laborious, and there is a lot of time that's going to be spent. But when you're doing that thing, just constantly thinking about like how can I do things, how can I do this better, or when you're doing more of the menial tasks, how can I do these more efficiently, like how can I implement that into the way that I approach a problem versus refusing to change like the old way, which that's what I consider is like staying busy. If you're, I'm trying to think of like a good
Yeah.
example.
No, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
totally with you. And I think one of the things there too that, most people get nervous about is like you get you get better at getting shit done. Like that's a real thing.
yeah,
Like when you start to do things, you get better at doing more things, right? It's like the old, idea of like you're gonna go 3 miles faster than you go 1 mile. Because if you're gonna go 1 mile, you'll probably walk and it takes you 15 minutes. And if you go 3 miles, I'm gonna drive and it's gonna take me five.
yeah.
Right? It's like if you want something done, ask a busy person. It's like you get good at it. And I
Mhm,
think people
mhm.
get nervous about that. And another thing that I recently saw, which I love, is like start asking more $30,000 questions instead of $3 questions. So like
Hmm.
stop worrying at like haggling over like, oh, do I buy a cup of coffee today? Right? Like maybe I should save the $3, right? Or do I spend 5 minutes working on this whatever thing? It's like, well, no, ask the $30,000 question of like, should I go to college? Like, should I join the Marines? Should I take a gap year? Should I get my master's? Right?
Yeah,
Like I think a lot of people get sucked into the little things. And that's something I try and focus on with like the podcast and the personal brand stuff of like, I don't worry. I don't spend an extra 10 minutes because my TikTok, the first take wasn't perfect, right? Like I don't spend an extra five
hmm.
minutes worrying about, the description of my podcast. It's like, no, like what's the brand? Where is this going? What are the big picture questions?
Yep.
Because
Okay.
like those are so much, in my opinion, and what I've seen a lot is like that's where I get the most value from my time.
Yeah. No, I mean I like it. It's funny you mentioned that because, and I'm gonna give you a contrarian viewpoint, right? I was
Please,
listening
please.
to I was listening to one of the founders' podcast. It was talking about Todd Graves, the founder of Raising Cane's Chicken, right?
Okay,
Like,
love
and
Raising Cane's.
yeah, and he was just going into like Graves's like obsession with a very simple chicken menu, but like everything about the canes has to be done perfectly to the T, right?
Yeah.
Like he's obsessive of every single element of that business.
Yeah.
And that to that point, like he's never given up his. I think he has 90% equity ownership. He's
Wow.
never sold off a single portion of that to private equity, even though they've like approached him a trillion times. And he refuses to switch up the business model, right? Like I'm sure you heard about it. Post Malone had approached Raising Cane's. Like he wanted to own. Post wanted to own like a franchise of the business. But Graves, he said, no, like that's not how we do things here. Like I want full control in the corporate sense about this thing. Some people see that as micromanaging and over aggressive, but then to Graves' sort of respect, like Raising Cane's is a fantastic chicken finger business, right? Like
Yeah. And I
you
know
know
it's
they
probably a good comparable too, right? They do a
yeah,
few things really well.
exactly. They do a few things very well, and they obsess over the little things. And like another example there is Jobs at Apple, right? Like Steve Jobs, he's a controversial figure. So, like he was an asshole, 100%, like full stop. But like an example of where he obsessed over every single thing, right? Like he, whenever there was like a marketing release for any new Apple product that came out, he had to review every single second of it. He wanted to, right? Like it was that he had that obsession about it where he was focusing on the $3 questions, while also focusing on the $30,000 questions, right? Like there is some kind of a sweet balance about it because for Jobs' respect, right? Like he wanted to make sure that every single frame, every single image, every single second that was put forth in an advertising and a marketing scheme was exactly the vision that aligned with what he wanted, right? And so then it's like, and this is something that I don't know how to do perfectly either because I agree with you, right? Like if you spend too much time into the weeds, you forget about what's going on in the clouds, right? But and then vice
Yeah.
versa though.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
would
like what's
say,
the balance?
yeah, I agree. And I've seen a lot of things like Peter Thiel, who's someone I look up to. He has a whole thing about like make make the process as simple as possible and then perfect the process, right?
Yeah,
Which I agree with. But I think the unique situation that I'm in and that a lot of early founders are in is the brand, like the vision is not clear for me, right? Like
yeah,
I feel it gets clearer every day, right? But I
yeah,
feel like Canes, In and Out, Apple, it's like, okay, they know what the vision is. Like that's set in stone. And what really matters for them is executing on that vision and like their promise, right? Like they have a promise with what they do.
yeah,
And I feel like I don't really have that set in stone yet. And so I think that's where I kind of have that descending, prioritization of like, okay, like I need to figure out my vision first before I can actually like perfect how I'm, giving that to the people.
yeah. That context makes 1,000% sense. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And it's also like one of my thought processes too with all this is I'm 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 gonna be much more patient and I am much more patient than most of my peers. Like I was texting my dad earlier. I was fixing the intro to the podcast. And I
Yeah,
made this cool new intro and it was like there was a couple things wrong with it, but it was better than the last one. He's like, that's so cool. You're making great progress. I was like, thanks. I was like, if I get a little bit better every day like this, like in a decade, what is this is gonna be crazy.
yeah,
Right.
yes,
And it's
sir.
like most people get caught up in the sense of like, oh, like, no, I've got to get this now.
Yeah,
It's like, no, this is gonna take a long time. It's like I would love to get to private equity or big three consulting one day, but that might take a decade. Like I don't know.
yeah,
Right. And one thing I have trouble with that I'm always kind of dallying to myself is like the Elon Musk thing of like set the deadline sooner because then you'll get it done sooner. But I also don't want to like I don't know, it's kind of like what we said earlier of like taking on things that are just a little bit outside of your skill level,
yeah,
right? It's like setting reasonable ones, but pushing it a little bit because I don't expect myself to get into private equity out of college, right? Like that's
yeah.
just unrealistic. But I can shoot for it by 26, 28.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. I think it's very much realistic there, and I will always caution this, like when it comes to listening to the advice of like of Musk or a lot of these like crazy founders, you have to remember that like they literally had a fanatical obsession where they spend like every waking moment of their life forever, like
Yeah,
doing things like the idea of balance doesn't exist. Like there
yeah,
is no life, but that's okay, right? Because then like it's you said like they have the vision. And so like as you go about this, I think the podcast is fantastic. It's amazing, right? And like once you develop that vision of like, okay, here's clearly what I want to see. And then you have to come to like crossroads and making that, introspective question. It's like, do I want to go 100% at this? Because like if you want to sit in the room and you want to compete against the world and you want to win, you have to go 100%, right? That one of my classes that I took in the fall here at McCombs, um, it was an entrepreneurial growth class, amazing class. And my professor, John Doggett, that's what he said. He's like, the reason that, the class was, he was very hard on you and everything that you answered and responded. Um, and the, recurring theme throughout it, it's like, if you want to go out there in the business world, you want to win. Like, you don't want to just be like one of the players in there. Like, you want to be the leader. You have to like devote yourself fanatically, right? And like Musk would sleep at the Tesla offices, at the factories. He probably still does at some point, like, and so like when you go into like having those people like their sort of approach about how they want to do things, you have to just be cognizant of that. Because like as I'm in this stage now, then it's like, I see the people that are going to the Blackstones and the KKRs of the world. Those are people that don't care about sleep. Like they literally don't care. Like all they care about is being the absolute biggest dog GP out there in the world, right? And that
Yeah.
does that work? It works for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to aim to be undeniable, right?
Yeah,
You got to
yeah,
aim to be someone they can't ignore.
yeah,
And the question is, in what field that looks very different.
yeah.
I think I'm kind of at a place now where it's like I want to be undeniable and like being Nick. It's like no one does Nick better than Nick.
Mhm.
Um, but that also is going to come. I'm sure that one day that will turn into like podcasting and consulting, and it's such a tricky balance of like when you're so many things you want to do, right? It's like
Yeah,
you got to
yeah.
pick one, which is
Time,
tough.
time is the scarcity, man.
You
Time.
know?
People say time is a commodity. I think it's the most valuable resource out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's the most useless skill you've learned?
Oh man,
I
that's
got
the
you want me
most
to go
useful.
first?
Yeah, you go first because that's tough for me to answer.
I don't know why it happened, but I'm really good at handstands.
At handstands,
Yeah,
can
I
you do
like
a
to talk.
handstand walk?
I can get a good like 4 feet, and then it gets sketchy.
Yeah.
But it's great because like I'll when I'm like drunk, I'll be like, "You guys want to do it? Like this is like a handstand contest," and they'll be like, "You're chatting shit. Like you're just hammered right now." I'm like, "Come on, like let's try it. Like I think I'm feeling good. I think I could."
Can you do handstand push-ups?
Against a wall,
Okay.
not like just straight up.
Yeah. Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Not yet. Not yet.
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Are you like planning to build up towards that with like some like super calisthenic workouts?
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it, but like I like kind of do it in private because it's like it kind of looks ridiculous. I'm like I don't love doing it at the Oregon rec.
Yeah.
What is this guy doing? Um, I was
That's how
doing
you. Yeah. Go ahead.
I did it in I was doing a handstand in my room the other day, like 'cause I was just bored, and I almost ate shit. And I was like, all right, I need an open space that's secluded, and I'll
Yeah.
do some practice.
Yeah. That definitely is a pretty random skill. Yeah. I mean, like on the note of like um, I guess like useless. I don't know if it's useless necessarily. I'm really good at pull ups. Like
Okay,
that's like the one. That's the like if we're talking about
that's
like fitness
impressive.
things. Yeah, but it like never really comes out to. I guess if you're like a climber, like, but I don't climb all that often. It's like I've always just been good at pull ups,
Yeah,
and so and it's like that's just like the one useless skill. That like the only time like you ever do pull ups is like I guess sometimes in the gym or like if you're like if once again if you're drunk and you're like I want to go pull myself up on this thing.
yeah.
Um,
The Marines baited me in one time with pull-ups. I
that's
did
how
a
they get you.
I was doing a Spartan race, and they had this set up, and they had like the pull-up bar,
Yeah,
and they had a Marine shirt on the table. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, if I do a certain amount of pull-ups, I get that shirt. It was like a cool shirt. I
yeah.
walked up, and they're like, how many pull-ups you can do? I was like, I don't know, either 1 or 10. And they're like, well, let's see. I like busted out like 12, and I was like looking over at the shirt, and he like starts recruiting me, and I was like, damn it.
Yeah, you felt good, right? You feel like Captain America right there, huh?
Oh yeah, it's like a total
Oh yeah,
flex. It's the
oh
total
yeah.
flex. Yeah, it's
Especially because you like you beat your expectations. You're like, damn, like, am I made for this? Like, am I
you're like,
cut
wait a
out for
minute.
it?
You're like, wait a minute. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. No, I like to do the little party trick of the one arm pull up, but it's like kind of a fake. You know that?
Yeah.
Where it's like
But you
you
do
go like
the
yeah, you do this and
yeah,
you do a pull
dude.
up. Yeah. You guys know I can do a one-arm pull-up? No, you
Yeah,
can't. Watch
everyone like
this.
fucking is astounded too. Like, whoa,
Yeah, man. Hey, you should try. No, but
man.
take your hand off the thing.
Take your hand off that thing. You're like, damn, man, you strong as hell.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
man.
so good. One of the things that I think you and I do well that maybe a lot of college students or young adults in general don't do well is professional development. I think we've both been on top of that, in our lives. What do you think most people get wrong about professional development, whether they're a college student or just, new to the workforce?
Man, that's a tough one, dude. That's a tough one. What's the thing that people do
Well,
wrong?
one of the things, not, there's
Yeah,
obviously no
yeah.
one
There's
answer.
there's so much. And this might be a hot take. I feel like there's a shifting narrative where a lot of people and like, but it's polarizing, right? Because like some people, when I think about like the mistakes that people do, like I place it in a couple, like in two different buckets, right? Like there's the people that focus overly intense, like over intensely. Um,
Yeah.
they focus too much on the technical aspects of the workforce, right? And then they ignore the softer skills. They ignore the relationship skills, and they say, "Oh, it's like I'm going to be an absolute technical beast." And then that'll carry me forward. That's valid in some circles, right? Like if you're going to be a quantitative trader at Jane Street, yeah, like you probably don't need to even
Or a
understand how to like,
doctor.
yeah, or a doc. Well, hot take, no, because it's like if you're a doctor, like you got to convince your patients that the treatment you're prescribing them is true, right?
Sure.
So like there's got to be
But
some,
they still got to focus more than I do.
yeah. And so
But yeah,
like
definitely soft skills still.
and so like there's that camp, but then there's also the camp where like that expect that the soft skills are going to take them everywhere, and they're like, I don't really need to focus too much on the technicals, right? Like you have to, if you want to be the best, if you want to have a successful career, you have to do both, right? Like and like you have to be able to understand, let's say in my case as a banker, right? It's like, okay, I understand how to create a good comp set, right? If I'm trying to, set a valuation for a company that's getting sold, I
Mhm.
have to understand and identify what companies are, currently existing that are good proxies for that, and how can I, use that in order to try to infer a value for the company that I'm helping sell, right? And so how I need to understand the technical aspects of finance and accounting, but then once I have that, and now I have to convert that into a soft skill, like how do I communicate that with my associate or my VP that we're working on the pitch deck on, in order
Yeah.
to say, hey, like this is the proper set. Like I found it by doing XYZ technical thing, and I, and now I have to communicate them and convince them that it's the right thing, right? Like I think the part where people struggle is they put themselves in one of those camps, right? Like there's this he's a super hardo like investment banker guy. He's got a few YouTube videos out there. His name is Jim Donovan. He's a
Okay.
professor at UVA. He's a Goldman Sachs banker, and like that's one of the things. And I think is in the video, like, are you destined to deal? Right, like super, just like, oh, that's so like
Yeah.
Patrick Bateman, American Psycho title.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think he says really good is like when he started at Goldman as an associate, like he was looking around at his associate peer class, and as he was looking around, he's like, okay, like these are the people that are going to go far, right? It's the people that had super good like personalities, and like they were, laughing and joking and stuff like that. They all got fired or they all left, right? And like the people that succeeded were like the killers in the technical aspects that still focused on the relationships too. So it's like I think the biggest career development problem people make is like trying to like silo themselves, or like they use it as a cope, right? They use it as a cope of like, I have something overly developed on one end and
Yeah.
I'm ignoring the other, but I think this one is going to compensate for that. It's like they're not. Like you have to have both.
Mhm.
Like if you have that puzzle equation, you have to be a good relationship person, but at the same time, like someone's not just hiring you because you make them laugh, right? Like if I'm hiring an investment maker, if you're hiring an investment maker to sell your company, you want to hire someone that obviously like you can have a conversation with, but you also want the motherfucker that can sell your company, right? And can give you a lot of money for it, right? And like in part of that, it's understanding like the technical portions of it, right? And so like if you have both, then that's fantastic. And so the problem people make is like you keep think like they think that they can overcompensate by having, overly developed on one end and ignoring the other.
Yeah. And I do think you can compensate in some way of like, I think if you're really good on one end, like that gets you in the door. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting that you were saying like, but that doesn't mean you're going to succeed,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It
Like you
doesn't
can
mean.
super personal get in the door, but if you can't actually get your job done, you're fucked.
Yeah,
And
because they're going to look at you and they're going to be like, "Hey, I need you to do this," and then you're going to be like, if you try to smile and handshake your way through, they're like, "Dude, I still need you to do this." Like,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, I would say like at least at this point in my life, I definitely lean more towards soft skills and networking than technical skills in terms of like advancement and getting positions and like moving throughout your career, just because like connections is so important. Um, but I think that's a great reminder that like you can't just ignore the technical stuff.
Not at all. Yeah, yeah, and like it obviously depends on like where you're going and what kind of career you want to have. Like, if you want something that's not, I guess, like super technically focused, like a lot of like sales and relationship management roles can be a lot more, relationship focused. But even at that end, like when you become like a senior, to become a good salesperson, like you also have to know the product you're selling, right? And like that's where the technical comes into play, right? Like my brother, he never went to college, he barely graduated high school, but he is a damn good salesman, right? And not only is he a good salesman because he understands the relationship aspect, but like he does automotive, right? And so like he knows everything about cars, right? So he is a technical master on it because he spends so much time learning about it in his off time. But then when it comes to like the relation portion, he like does a good job at nurturing these relationships that constantly bring in revenue. And so like when you put the two together, like you become an outstanding person, even in a field where like people think sales isn't technical. It's like you got to know the product though, right? And you have to know it well enough to understand when you're talking with a prospective client, how is this product the right fit for you? And if it's not the right fit, then you could tell them that, right? Gain confidence and then go about that point.
Yeah, this is my read, and you tell me what you think is
Yeah.
the technical is, plays a bigger role in how you succeed, and the networking and the soft skills plays a bigger role in how you progress
Yes.
within a company
Yes. Yeah.
and within your
Yeah.
career.
Yeah. Because there are people that fail upwards, right? Like some people, like they might not have the technical know how, but they have the really good relationships. So they continue to progress, and it works sometimes. And vice versa, right? Like they have really strong skills. At some point, they get to a spot where like they just don't have the relationship portion of it, and so they start failing. Like there's
Yeah,
always exceptions to it, but that's my advice. That's my advice, though. That's what I
yeah,
think about it.
yeah. And I like to think about it too, of like, if I had two applications in front of me and one of them was you, and it was for a role that you did not have technical, skills in, and it was someone else who had like this perfect resume, but I've never met them, and I didn't think they had great soft skills.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to hire you. Also, just from the fact of like, I'm confident that you could learn the
Thank you.
technical skills. Yeah. Right. Like, there's also an aspect of like,
Yeah.
if you're really good at communicating, like, hey, I don't know this yet, but I'm really good at learning, like you said,
Yes. Yes.
then I'm like, all right, let's make it happen. Right. I'm going to
Yeah.
give you the benefit of the doubt there, but still have to perform, like
Yeah.
you said.
Exactly. At some point, you have to do the job.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest parts of networking is finding people to talk to and finding the right people to talk to. And I've always been really fortunate that my dad does consulting. So like he's
Yeah.
always had good connections. I'm like, Dad, hey, can you I met this person and like I get my first in, right? And then from that I'm able to ask the people that I'm talking to and build my network naturally on my own. But like the first step I've always been lucky that like that was done for me.
Hmm.
It seems to me like you didn't really have that. And
Yeah.
I'm
No.
curious for you, like how you went about that first step for people listening that don't have that first in.
Yeah. It's perform, right? Like, and it's hard because so in the military, I developed a very robust network from like the defense community because when I showed up to work and when I did things, I excelled. I was extremely good at my job, right? I focused a lot on the technical portion, while also like building on the relationships, right? Like as I was, trying to go above and beyond in my performance, I made sure that people saw that. And when people saw that, they're like, okay, like I have a good impression of this person, and then like, start building relationships there. And so then when I got out of that, and then I went into the college portion, because then once again I'm stepping into the unknown. I'm a first gen student, so like no one has ever been to college in my family. Like no one understands what business school is, right? And so then when I get to business school, then it's like, okay, I'm starting from fresh here again. So then it's like, okay, how do I start building this network again, right? So I started off. I was doing. I think the first thing that I did at Oregon was VITA. It's the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, where it's like a preparing uh, free taxes for the low income in the community. The first year I was a volunteer, and I knew that like in the military, the way I crushed it is like I performed very well, and then focused on making sure people saw that, and then when they saw that, build those relationships. And so then I did the exact same thing there, right? And at VITA, right? And so the people that were running it was a bunch of grad students, right, that were getting ready to go into PwC. And so I went into this thing, crushed it, got their commendation. They're like, "Hey, you guys, you did great." And so then from there, one of the people that was running it, Jeffrey Van Horn, a good friend of mine still today, he referred me to the recruiter at PwC, right? And so then it all kicked off there. That was sort of the ignition point, because then I talked with him. He connected me with other people there because I already had a good word out for me, right? And so then it's like once I started doing that, then I started, just speaking to a bunch of different other people, um, both through a warm handoff and then just sending out a cold email, sending out a LinkedIn request. And then like as I just kept speaking to these people, the knowledge effect started coming into play, because after I talked to every single person, I learned something. Right? Every conversation that I have, I take it as an opportunity to learn. And so then when I go to the next conversation, I have more and more knowledge. And so then when I hop into a call, I'm never uninformed. And so
Yeah.
when I'm never uninformed, they, take that as a positive sign of like, hey, this person is competent. And that's how I started the relationship building. Right. And so like my advice to anyone there is like, put yourself in a spot. If you want to start networking, like sign up for something that helps people. When you sign up for something that helps people, crush it and make sure people see it, right? Make sure people see what you're doing, right? Don't there's no glory in being the hero in the shadows. Like there isn't, right? Like understand that, like be proud of the things that you do, and make sure people recognize that, because then they'll understand what you're capable of. And if you do a fantastic job, then the network starts building upon itself, right? You have to obviously seek it out, but that's how I went about it. When I got out of the military and came to college.
Yeah, that's great advice. I really like that you said too, like don't feel like you need to hide it, right?
Mm-mm.
And I think that goes for everything. Like, you specifically the community impact that you were talking about there, but also just the achievements that you have in life. That's something that I've, definitely been struggling with a little bit. Is like when I do speaking gigs or when I do this, it's like I'm supposed to talk about things that I've done, like the book, right? But
Yeah.
like I don't like doing it because it kind of feels like I'm bragging, or like it feels like a plug, which it is a plug. That's kind of the
Yeah.
whole point. But like there's no reason to like hide that and be ashamed of that, right? Like it's something you did, like that's cool, that's impressive, and it's something that takes getting used to. It's weird, but yeah.
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah. Own it, man. Own it. Like you have crushed it in what you're doing in life. Be proud of it. And then for anyone else there, right? It's like whatever you do, be proud of your accomplishments, and then like use that as something to promote what you're capable of.
Yeah. You mentioned VITA there, which is one of the many community impact related roles that you've been in. And I think
Yeah.
community impact is really important to you. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that plays such a big role in your life?
Like community impact or VITA, or like
Community
specifically.
impact as a whole.
Yeah, man. I mean, like it all goes back to that original, like the question you just asked right now, right? When I first started off, I didn't know anything, right? Like, and a lot of that I think is just, it's just a byproduct of like coming from an immigrant family, right? Like you come from an immigrant family, and you're first generation in all these different, situations, and you don't know anything, right? And so there's not really that much of a community that starts off at the beginning, right? And so the important thing for me is as a community impact is like I understood the struggles of like navigating like this completely foreign terrain, and it was scary. You never know what's the right decision and what's not the right move, right? Like throughout life, like if you're growing up in a situation where let's say, your father or your mother or anyone in your family has done and been in these situations, they can sort of coach you as you're growing up. I never had that, right? And so then it's like, okay, like as I think about how I want to leave an impact into the world, I want to start creating that space where the next generation of people that precede me or succeed me are able to take that away and have those lessons so that they can get into these positions and succeed without having to make the same mistakes that I did, right? And so that has always played a very big part for me, because it's like I've gone through all those struggles, and I don't. It's not necessary, because like if you're able to pass the knowledge across, to different generations, they don't have to make the same errors and mistakes that you make. It's sort of just out of ignorance that I just didn't know, right? And so that has just been a very crucial part of community impact for me, and like I want to play it out in any sense that I know how to, right? I'm an accounting major. And so big part of that is financial literacy. I understand how to use numbers and how to, balance your finances and make good decisions with that. And so to me, Vita was an amazing first start into community impact, right? I was able to help hundreds and hundreds of immigrant families that were just like myself, right? Just like my family, make sense of what's going on with the numbers, right? And we don't give like full on like financial advice, right? I'm not a licensed advisor, but I tell them, I'm like, hey, like just general advice, like you might want to look into this, like look into this, or like, and then they start asking questions, right? And then they have that curiosity that I have. They're like, hey, why would I do that? Like, how does that affect me? And so then it's like that was an outlet to like begin sort of that community impact, in which it sort of evolved from that aspect in itself to like helping small businesses, right? Like through OCG, we helped out a bunch of small different businesses there, especially with Cafe La Onda. I don't know if you've heard of
I
that
do remember that
engagement.
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that was a fantastic, I think engagement, because it's like, okay, like not only can I affect these people on like a personal scale, it's like you also empower them to like start this entrepreneurial and pursue that entrepreneurial dream here in the United States, right? Because it's a lot different when you think about what is it to start a business in the United States versus in Mexico or in El Salvador or in Guatemala, right? Because the culture is so different. And one of my favorite, I think he's my favorite rapper, Nipsey Hussle, right? One of the constant messages that he has in his music is always like giving back and like, teaching the community in your specific community, like the lessons that you learn to like sort of ignite this entrepreneurial spark. And so like that's something that I've always wanted to do. And like I've been able to do that with also working with businesses like on the side, so that I can, hopefully help them navigate this unfamiliar terrain that's here in the US. And so then it started from Vita and then went to businesses. And then I also just try to help just individuals, right? Like people that reach out to me, especially if they're like Latino or like trying to figure out the situation. It's like that resonates with me deeply, right? I help anyone else that like contacts me, right? But like if it's someone that has a very similar background, I know what that's like, like I've been in your shoes before. And so if I can do anything in the slightest bit to sort of mitigate some of those growing pains, would love to, give back so that eventually it becomes a feeding chain, right? Because it's like I change one person's life, but they change two people's, and that compounds. And then you see generational change across the board.
Yeah. It's giving people the knowledge and support that you wish you would have had.
100%, 100%. And so that's where I hold it very deeply in my heart, man.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting to hear because I've done the same thing, but in a completely different field.
Mm-hmm.
Of I grew up having that support, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't a struggle that I had, but I had like, social struggles or, confidence struggles, right? And like that's what like the book is literally like, hey, here's things I wish I would have known and
Yeah.
support that I wish I would have had. And like, here you go. And it's really interesting to see that same dynamic just in a different aspect of life.
Well, and dude, that's what the world is about, man. And that's what the world needs, right? It's like everyone can help in their own way, right? Like everyone's got their own different like ways in which they can contribute to like the greater human discourse. And it's like
Everyone's
if
good at
everyone,
something.
yeah, everyone's good at something, give back to the world, right? Like that is the way that you can give back and just make everything a better place, right? It sounds like such a touchy feely sort of like make believe thing, and this probably sounds crazy coming from like a business major, right? But then like that's true. Like it's like we can really have this positive impact if everyone gives back and the one thing they're good at, right? Pick one thing you're good at, give back to society and help out in that sense. You can make the world a better place through the things that you do. It doesn't matter if it's finance or if it's confidence or understanding how to navigate life. Like whatever you're able to give back into, go for it, right? Because then you leave something for people to remember you by. And it's that to me, that's the point of life, right? It's like, how am I going to be remembered when I'm gone?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be as big and daunting as a book. It doesn't have to be you start an organization. It can be as simple as you volunteer once a week, or as simple as like, hey, I'm really good at, programming. Like I help, people at the elderly home with their
100%.
phones once a month.
100%.
Right.
Help one person, man. If you have one person, they'll help one person. They'll help two people. They'll help three, four. And it just keeps growing from there, man. It just keeps growing from there.
Yeah. Would you rather never be able to use pockets again or never use cologne again? To stay on the world
Ah,
how,
cologne.
cologne. Yeah, that's what I'm
Cologne.
thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. No chance. Like pockets are essential.
I mean, you got the
Like
fanny pack though. You were showing off the fanny pack
I know.
earlier.
Let me put back over here. This is it's UT branded too.
Wow.
They have a little Longhorn on there. It's the Lulu
Lululemon
too.
too.
Yeah, it's cracked out. Yeah. Yeah. Pockets are utility. Cologne. I
A
wear
utility.
cologne. Yeah. No. You
What's
cologne.
such a
Oh my
military way to say that? Pockets are utility.
cologne is crazy, right? Like I'll put cologne on every once in a while. Maybe if it's like a date night, right? But like other than a date night, like I don't wear it. I just shower, and just put on like lotion and
You just have
deodorant.
that. You just have the like, cologne musk.
I hope there's no musk. maybe I'm just nose blind. I actually smell like shit. No one's just told me yet, but
It's like my.
hopefully that's
It's
not
like
the
my.
case.
Every time I'm like next to someone who smells bad, it's like biggest fear of like, I pray I do not smell like that. Please tell me this is me right now.
Yeah, maybe that's my next. That's my biggest irrational fear is I'm just like, do I actually smell like shit?
Yeah,
And no one's just saying it.
yeah. It's the oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, Christian, thank you for coming on, man. This has been
Yeah, man.
so fun to reconnect and so fun to learn more about you. Before we get out of here, I would love to hear your favorite story.
Yeah, that's there's a lot. I'm a big story guy. But I think and it's funny you mentioned that right now because it sort of builds off what we just talked about. It's something. Uh, have you heard about the Emperor's New Clothes?
No,
Okay. This is a
I'm
story that
excited.
I heard someone recently. Something pretty impactful to me. I think it's really relevant today, right? And so the Emperor's New Clothes it takes place back in medieval times, right? You got a monarchy like king that rules the kingdom, right? And so this king is a big fat king. There's no need for him to be a big and fat, but he just is, right? And so the king he rules over and he thinks that he's like the best person in the world, right? He's obviously the king. He's sitting on the throne. He rules everything. And so one day there's these two tailors that they come up to him and they say, Your Highness, we have this brand new innovative fabric that exists that if we weave it into a suit for you, if you're worthy, which you are because you're the king and you are the top of this world, then it will be a very glamorous, luxurious suit. However, for those that are unworthy, you will appear naked to the world. And the king automatically is flattered, right? He's like, damn, I'm the best in the world. Like this is a suit that only like this fabric will only be visible if I wear it because I'm the absolute best that's out there. And so the king said, of course, go make it done. And then he tells his court, he tells them, hey, proclaim it across the land. I'm getting a brand new suit made. As soon as the suit's made, we're going to have a parade. I'm going to march to town. And this is going to be something that only the worthy, which I am, is going to be able to, wear it. Because if not, you're going to be naked. And so the tailors scurry off. They go to build out this suit. And then the king's kingdom goes out and talks to everyone. They let the whole population know, hey, this is going to be a brand new parade. It's going to be awesome, right? So the tailors come back and they come with this suit, right? The king puts it on, and the tailors are like, Your Highness, you look fantastic. You look amazing. And he's like, oh, fucking just baffled up, right? And then he has his king's court right there, and they're just hearing these guys like say it, but in reality, he's fucking naked. It's an invisible fabric. This dude's just butt ass naked, right? It's a big fat king. He's just naked, but he thinks, and they're hyping him up. And the court, they don't want to be the ones to say that he's naked, so they just go along with it. They say, "Your Majesty, you look fantastic," and so he's obviously all gassed up. Then he gets on his little chariot, goes downtown into the parade, and everyone is looking at him, and they're all baffled. Like, this dude's naked, man. Like, this dude is just riding around this chariot just butt ass naked, but no one is saying anything, right? Everyone's just chapping, like clapping and cheering along as he strolls through town. When all of a sudden, as he gets towards the end, there's a little kid, and the little kid sees that he's naked. He's like, "You're naked." And then everyone just bursts out laughing. And the king gets embarrassed and realizes and looks to his court that's behind him and is like, why did none of you tell me that I was naked? And that's the end of the story. The reason I find that story to be so compelling, man, it's like, it's something that we as people, we get caught up a lot in sort of a group thing, right? You go along with what everyone else along you is saying. You know, everyone is saying, oh yeah, that dress is, you know, black and purple, but it's white and gold, right? Like, you know that it's white and gold, but everyone is saying that it's not. But a lot of times we go along with it. I've done it a bunch too, right? It's like the thing and the more of that story is like, you have to be the one to have the independent thought, right? You have to be that little kid that is able to say, dude, you're naked. Like, you're not wearing any clothes. Because if you just go along with the group thing, like, that's where a lot of problems I think just happen in the world today, is that people just don't have the gall to just speak their minds and say, like, I disagree. I don't think that's the right way to do things. I don't think that's exactly how we should be approaching this kind of thing. And so I heard that a couple months ago, and my professors were telling it to me, and I was like, that's a pretty cool story. That's a pretty cool story. And I was just imagining, I have a vivid imagination too, so I was just imagining this fucking fat dude just naked. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
why are you naked, man?
Yeah. That's so good. I love it. Christian,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, of course. All right, Nick. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thank you. Till next time.